All right. So this looks like a good starting point for our webinar. So again, to all those who have joined, uh, great to see you, and we really appreciate you coming on today and learning more about Amous TMS and how it works for shippers, but also different other verticals within the market, which we'll touch up on a little bit, including 3PLs and carriers. My name is Mark. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Amous. So been with the company for nearly 7 years and been excited about building the third generation of TMS, which includes microservices, over 300 different types of integrations, AI tools, and also a multimodal and multi-object solution that really encompasses every single part of transportation. So today we're going to be going through a quick presentation on the system, which will give you a little bit of an introduction as far as who we are and what we do. After the presentation, we will jump into the TMS itself, and I will touch up on the main points of Amous TMS as far as how we've seen the application with shippers and other types of clients, what has been most successful. But at the same time, if you guys want to learn more about the system, or if you want to do a one-on-one demo, please reach out to us on amousinternational.com. There's a green request demo button. Fill out the form. Somebody will get in touch with you, and they'll be able to personalize the demo, even use some of your use cases in order for you to understand exactly how the system works. So what I'm going to do at this point is share my screen. It should pop up within the next second or two. And this is the presentation that I was talking about. So first, a couple things I want to cover as far as Amous TMS goes is that we were looking at what was the market need when we were building Amous TMS. And the main thing that came about was that there was a lot of fragmented tech stacks. Sometimes people didn't want to rip out the entire TMS and replace it with a new one. They needed new technologies to adapt quickly with the market, and at the same time being able to handle multiple different operations while integrating with any system in the universe, right? Whether it's through API, SFTPs, EDIs, you name it. So we came together and built a solution that solved all of those different issues. And we didn't create it as a typical TMS. We do have a full TMS solution, but we also created it as a modular approach. And with the modular approach, what that means is take the whole system or only take parts of the system that you need and incorporate them into your already existing technology stack. So some ways we've seen that is that people want to come in and only utilize the rating engine and integrate it to their internal systems. You can do that with Amous TMS, which is one of those unique value adds of our system that allows for a much smoother transition into the next level for your operations. Everything is enterprise-based within the system, so that means you can have multiple different operations with their own rule sets, with their own communication channels and user access points, so you can have very good control over your data, how that data is managed, and who has access to that data. We could also deploy the TMS in multiple different ways. Some of those ways is the standard license of sharing our AWS space. We could also do dedicated instances and also full-on white labeling of the software. So depending on your needs, you can deploy Amous TMS in multiple different ways. So we try to find the right fit for our customers and then make that implementation happen. Few other things that we did is, like I mentioned before, is the modular by design. So it creates a much easier transition period into the TMS. We are an API first architecture. So all of the integrations or internal communications that happen within the system, we do definitely push the API first philosophy within Amous. One platform for shippers, brokers, and fleet. Really what this means is multiple companies can be operating within one account. So many times, even in the shipper model, you might have your own fleet of trucks. So you can either just get the system for the fleet of trucks, get it for the entire operations, run multiple operations. That's really where that flexibility comes in. And of course, the standard brokerage and working with outside brokerage is still available within Amous. We also do have portals and mobile apps. The portals allow either your customers or your carriers to come in and be able to view their data, download information, and communicate with you to make it a much easier and much more transparent operation. We even have self-service portals. Some of our customers allow people to go in and rate shipments or do mass rating to see exactly what the market conditions currently are. Mobile apps, very useful if you have your own internal drivers or you want to replace MacroPoint, for instance, because both of our mobile apps for internal drivers and outside carriers give a full-on two-way communication where it can be a simple dispatch with document uploads, rule sets, notifications, inspections, you name it, all packed into one very easy to use mobile app. The multimodal rating engine, this is something that's extremely important. So the rating engines can be handled within Amous, but they can also be integrated based on carrier integrations. For instance, if we're talking about LTL, regional and national carriers, it can be through systems like SMC3 or even truckload carriers, you name it. But of course, when it comes to contracts, Amous does have the full ability to handle and rate the contracts within the system across multiple different modes of transportation. And the most important one is we try to take a native tools approach within Amous, meaning that we want you to not have to maintain multiple systems. So if you're going to buy Amous TMS, you don't have to go out and buy a third-party EDI integration software because that is automatically within the TMS. Same thing on the fleet side. You don't have to go out and get a maintenance software program or a mobile app. You can handle that all within Amous TMS. So it reduces costs, reduces maintenance, all the Band-Aid systems and, disruptive integrations that you might have between multiple systems are taken out. So that way you can keep everything nicely in one place. So that kind of brings us to the point of the bullseye for today's demo, where we're looking at shippers or 3PLs with fleets. More on the shipper side, obviously, we will do a full-on 3PL. But if you do want to see more of this presentation, we do have a lot of case studies with many of our customers, including Traffics, who does a full modular approach for their trailer pool management for USPS facilities across the United States. One of our clients is E.L. Hollingsworth, who has multiple divisions across multiple modes of transportation, full-on 3PL, services with customer portals and integrations, self-service portals. I believe at this point there are about 15 LTL API integrations, so a very great example. And also with Bosch, where we did a white label of a portion of our TMS and built out internal and external systems that they needed to utilize. So when it comes to the actual implementation process of Amous TMS, everything is handled by us, obviously working with your teams as well. So we are very hands-on. We try to get as much information from you in order to make a successful implementation. We contact each and every single one of your integrations. We set up all the data, the accounts, import, make the connections happen, train your users, create SOPs specifically based on the configurations that are set up for your account. And after that, we go into what's called a hypercare. So during hypercare, we're basically available within about 10 to 15 minutes. If there's any issues, we will resolve them on the spot if development is needed. We do kind of a drop everything model where we go in and make sure that the issue is taken care of very fast. We also offer services to go on site with your team if that is necessary on Go Live in order to be there in the room and help out with any issues that might arise. Some of the professional services that we also provide is development and consulting and enhancement. So based on all of our experience across the development team, implementation team, and architect teams is that we can help your company a lot from developing new solutions, going into the TMS and creating exactly what you guys would need, or just doing simple consulting as far as how do we think your operation might be able to perform a little bit better based on making changes internally, but also applying Amous TMS from the technical side to really help out your operations. So all of that is jam-packed into all the professional services that Amous provides. So now we're kind of getting into some of the screenshots, which is a great transition point into the TMS. So what I'm going to do is actually switch over to the tab with the login page. And I'll start out with some of the features even within the login page itself. So if you are on our shared AWS instance, you do get a prefix on the DNS. So your company name .amostms.com allows you to change the background image, the logo, login title, really personalize and give that storefront value, especially if you use portals with your customers or carriers with all of your branding inside there. If you go dedicated instance, you host it on your own DNS. So whatever your company name is, you can tack on TMS.com at the end, and now everything is going to be revolved around your company. And if it's a full white label, there's multiple ways that we can do that. And if you're interested in the white label model, please reach out to us and we'll be able to describe more of it. So once we log in, the first screen we will see is what's called the dispatch dashboard. So this has all the loads flowing through the system across different types of reports and filtrations. But before we get into that operations, I do want to click on the dual shore master level on the top. This is that enterprise structure that I mentioned during the presentation, and one of the defining factors of what really makes Amous TMS different. And in my opinion, this is one of the most important features of the entire system. So this allows you in a typical enterprise fashion, create a parent-to-child relationship with inheritance of how certain user configurations and settings will be granted down to the level, who has access to what information, and also how data is flowed between the divisions and outside systems as well. However, we did make a couple tweaks to it, and we'll get to that in just 1 second, but the master level at the top is the level that sees everything and controls everything. So that's currently where I'm situated. If I set up a new configuration at the master level, automatically the division below is going to receive it. And thus you do have those divisions. Now the division is technically a separate operation or sub-operation from your entire organization. In my case, I have a trucking division and a brokerage. So if I'm a shipper utilizing the TMS, I can have loads flowing into the brokerage division. So that way I can find outside brokers, 3PLs that I work with, or I can find carriers to transport the loads, or I can send it to my internal trucks, which is the Amous trucking division. And each one will behave depending on the rule sets of the type of company it is and what kind of configurations you set up. And if I click on Amous trucking, it's going to physically take me down to that level. I'm only going to see the data pertaining to it. If I open up the menu and start looking at all the analytics, the different invoices, whatever else, I'm only seeing Amous trucking information at this point. And when I was mentioning, if I set up a configuration at the master, it will automatically flow down to the divisions. Well, in this case, what we can do is go into the configuration within this division itself, make overrides based on what the parent has told us to do. So in this case, the parent is saying that the default sequence to create order numbers is this. Well, I'm going to say, no, I want Amous trucking to utilize this sequencer. So this is how it becomes very simple to maintain the software and quickly update and even onboard future divisions. So if you're ever going to go through different mergers and acquisitions, reorganization internally, it doesn't have to be a painful process. So the Amous, depending based on the architecture that we have set up, it becomes a lot easier. Now, if I expand Amous trucking, you'll notice that now I have the CST levels. These are all of my customers specifically to that division. Now, each customer is going to also receive the same configuration that either the master level or the division above it told it to how to operate, but then I can go again into the customer level and set up their different workflows. So for instance, if Amazon in this case is only doing a specific type of mode of transportation, they require this type of information during the order entry, I can have Amazon behave completely different and also reduce the amount of human error that can happen through processing a load inside the system. And even within the customer itself, if you need to break down a customer based on different plant levels, whatever it may be, you can do that right inside here. As you can see, I have a sub-level for a customer. Now, if you do have customers that are utilized by multiple divisions, this is where things get a little bit different. What I can do is I can take a shared list of customers and share them across multiple divisions, which means now I don't have to manage that same customer profile underneath multiple divisions. I can create it in one place. Depending on who's actually executing that transportation, it will be placed into the correct division. And when it comes to back office processes of invoicing, payments, whatever else, everything is nicely taken care of. Now, this is a great moment to also mention that since we're a multimodal system and it is in the name Amous International, the system can be deployed and utilized in multiple different countries. So we do have multi-currency with normalization available. We have the ability to translate the system in the mobile apps as well. So don't think that this is just a United States-based system. You can use it across the world. So this is, again, the enterprise structure. If I set up an integration, an Amous trucking division, it's only going to affect it. If I set up an EDI for Amazon, it's only going to be affected on the Amazon level. I place a user at the Amous trucking division. That's the only division they'll have access to. Same thing with the brokerage. So again, this is like an introduction as to how this kind of controls the entire operations within Amous TMS. So now let's go in and actually do the processing of an order. And this whole entire branch system enterprise structure is going to come up a little bit more throughout this demo. Excuse me. So the first thing that we're going to do is create an order. So the way loads are built inside the system, we're going to select our customer, is they actually have three parts to them. We have the order, which we're going to create based on the request from the customer. That order then gets connected to a trip. The trip is going to pull certain information from the order, and we're either going to assign a carrier or a driver and do all dispatching and communications. Now, all of that is then connected with what's called a route. Now, the reason for all this, why we separated order and trip, customer info is in one place, driver carrier info is in another, driver or carrier logs in through the portal, they're only going to see what's on the trip side, right? Never what's on the customer side. But at the same time, what we can do is more complex movements, which we will see in just a couple minutes. So I can take multiple orders and combine them into one trip. Consolidation, I can do splitting of orders across trips. Or I can do even full-blown LTL. We have many LTL companies operating within Amous TMS, including with load building and planning tools, which we can touch up on a little bit, especially when you're doing those consolidations. So with the order entry, a lot of this stuff is pretty standard. You have the addresses, the pickup information. You do have the ability to create location templates. So that way, when you type in the location name, it's going to pull in all the pertinent information about it, especially things like appointment, if there's rules about scheduling appointments, presetting dates and times, contacts, business hours, all of that can be set up in the location template. So thus you pull it in and off it goes. The items, you can control per division or customer which item fields are required to enter an order, like I mentioned when we were talking about the different settings. But we have everything from base item fields to dimensions, stackability conditions, temperature information, freight class calculators, hazmat fields, even down to car haulers, right? So anything you can imagine for different modes of transportation, all of that is taken care of within the items fields. The drop, very similar. Only thing different is we have the origin destination pairing, which the item is getting selected from the pickup to the drop. So if we do go in and add multiple pickups and drops, move them around into different sequences, we'll be able to match and pair which items go where. Additional info, things like special instructions, internal notes, additional references, all of that packed nicely inside here. And then you have the pricing, which I can do with multiple line hauls, discounts, fuel scales. They can calculate the fuel surcharge and any additional charges. And all these drop-down lists within the system are managed within the settings. So each division or customer can have their own list of accessorials, right? And mappings do allow you for your own internal accounting systems to map out all those different charges so they go exactly where they need to. So I'm actually going to start fresh. We do have templates of loads that we can utilize. So I'm just going to use this Coca-Cola LTL rate, for instance. We're going to select the date and time. As you notice from the template, everything is preset. And if you do any sort of EDI or API integrations, especially with ERP systems with your customers, you don't have to worry about going through this step, other than maybe double checking things, because all of that will be automated. So now that we made it to the pricing information, I'm going to click on show rates, and this is going to be a great example because it's going to pull in from two different sources. You'll notice that I have Ace Trucking LTL contract. That is a demo carrier that I have set up within the system with their own rating engine and contracts, and it spits out the rate depending on the conditions of the load, right? Things like items and origin destination. But you'll also notice that I have Dayton freight contracts. So these are actually live pricing coming in from Dayton Freight Line's API integration. So that way, as you can see, I can compare through across multiple different carriers, see exactly which ones are the cheapest, which ones are the most expensive, transit days. And if I want to move any of these columns around, I can move the transit days, for instance, where is this? There we go. Next to the total, save. And that way I can even compare, okay, these carriers, these are the transit days, and these are the available carriers, right? If you're doing parcel, same thing, you'll be able to see parcel across FedEx, UPS, whatever else, internal rates, LTLs, consolidations, you name it. All that is taken care of, and you can make quick decisions based on one screen. And all that, again, is dependent on which mode of transportation, which service level is necessary, which equipment do we require, what are the distances, weights. With LTL, for instance, if there's going to be an interlining carriers, you will get a notification about it. So it's very, very thorough with how it works. Within the map, you could also see what the tentative route is going to be. We also have inside here ETA calculators. So you can preset different rules, and through AI, the system will calculate what the ETA is going to be. If we receive them from the carriers from the outside world, well, we can populate that information as well. This is more for internal use, but everything from AI ETA calculation, what's the total duration, break minutes, max drive, off-duty hours, all of this could also be adjusted throughout the life of the load in order for you to get the correct information. And we have a full suite of notifications, not only for ETAs, but other things as well, to let you know if there's anything going wrong with this specific shipments. All right, so next thing that I do want to cover is, oh, looks like I selected the wrong. Let's go here, I'll go 31st. Is that once I have the actual order created, it's going to take me into the trip details. So this allows me to view all the information about this specific shipment. And if at any time I need to either split the shipment, consolidate it, whatever else, I can click on what's called the route builder. Now, once I'm within the route builder, the screen is really split up into two parts. At the upper portion, you have what's called the bucket. At the bottom, you have the canvas. So the bucket is going to have a list of all of the shipments that are available depending on which filters you have selected. So in my case, I selected all orders, and you can predefine these filters exactly how you want. At the bottom, you'll notice that I have the canvas with the trip pre-selected with the pickup and the drop cards based on the shipment that we just created. So now what can I do with this? Well, in the most simple fashion, I can add an additional trip, move the drop down to a second trip, which is going to be a different carrier or driver, and I can create an interchange points. So I'm going to select my Laredo terminal. So the way it works now is truck A is going to do the pickup, drop it off at this terminal, and then truck B is going to pick up at the same terminal and then do the final delivery. So in this case, I have one order connected to two trips, all encompassed inside one route. And when it comes to billing, you're going to have one invoice, you're going to have two payables to, the drivers and the carriers. So all that is kind of taken care of in the background and automated to make sure that you have a very smooth process. But let's actually cancel this out. And I'm going to show you another example. Another simple example is I can create another order on the same trip and start moving these cards around. And since I have two orders with two different customers, the driver will now know he has to do pickup, and drop. Or I can move this drop over, and then now it's pickup, drop. Another example, and this is going to be the last one, so we can go into a few other things. Actually, let me do this view. Select this load one more time. Is that I can add 3 trips. I can have a couple of local guys do the pickups, and connect all of these drop events on the final deliveries. And all I'm going to say is, again, Laredo terminal, except that trip 1 and 2 are going to be drops at the terminal, and trip 3 is going to be pickup at the terminal. And now you have a full multi-leg. You can even have it as a multi-modal movement across multiple different carriers and trucks, and it can get deeper and deeper and more complex. This is just an introduction as far as what those capabilities are. And the cool thing is, similar to the order templates, I can save this entire route as a template itself, recreate it, and the system will automatically generate the order, split them across multiple trips. And if you have any predefined carriers or trucks, they will all show up inside here as a rated status before you go in and actually do the dispatching. So now that we covered all of the multimodal and the different kind of load planning and building tools that we have, let's actually go into how we can communicate with the carriers, brokers, and drivers if you have internal trucks. So I'm going to start with the carriers. First things first is I can go in and just assign a carrier and do all the dispatching with them. But another tool that many of our shippers really enjoy is that I can send out carrier bid requests. So based on the carrier list that I have within the system, I can select either individual carriers or create email groups where they can have 5, 50, 100, doesn't matter how many carriers inside there. It's just going to send them all in one shot. And I'm going to define what the transportation mode is, select when they have to respond to this request by, add any comments if necessary. Please respond when able, and who the reply to is. So we can integrate with Gmail, Outlooks, SMTPs with your internal servers. Basically, if you're going to send an email from the system, it will actually come from your personal email, not a no reply at amostms.com. But now, once I actually submit and do the actual carrier bid request, give me 1 second. This is what the carrier will receive, saying that this is a new bid request from my company, DualShore, with all the information about the shipment itself, and then they can either submit or decline. So if I click on submit, it's a simple form, no login required. On the left side is going to have the same summary information that we saw in the email, and they're just going to simply say the line haul's 1,000, fuel is this, any additional charges. And I'm going to add a little comment inside here, submit. And once I receive it, I can get a notification. But at the same time, if I go down to carrier rates, you'll notice I have a list of all the carriers who submitted a bid from my request. And after I get, let's say 2, 3, 5, 10 carriers inside here, I can select which one I want to utilize, and it will just automatically dispatch them out. If I'm doing a manual selection or rating of the carrier, I can click on add carrier rate. I have a drop-down list of the carriers that I can select. I can put in dispatch info, tracking and reference numbers, PO numbers, whatever else. And of course, all the line hauls, discounts, fuels, and additional charges. But if I click on show rates, similar to what we saw on the order side, you'll notice here, I now have a list of all the carriers that I can select from and do the rating, whether it's from internal systems or API integrations. Right now, just because it's a demo version, you can see it breaks down by mode from parcel, rail, truckload, LTL, ocean, who we can utilize. But for just the purposes of the demo, I'm going to select Mark's Trucking Company. And we're going to put in, this is a truckload, for instance. We'll put 750. That's what we negotiated with them. And we're going to apply a fuel surcharge. The fuel surcharge, we do get all of the DOE national averages once a week. And you can set up the fuel scale along with different rules as far as geofences, districts that are utilized, if you have any minimums and maximums, and also if you want to use the current weeks, previous weeks, monthly average. Again, a lot of different tools and rule sets available for those different fuel scales. But at this point, I'm going to click on dispatch. We're going to select the dispatch document, which is the rate con with the container information in my case. And what happens at this point, let me just pull this to the side. Kind of like the carrier bid request, the carrier will receive, or the broker, the load dispatch information along with the tutorial video and all the information pertaining to the origin destination rates. And then they can either accept or decline. If I click accept, very similar, except that we're going to do an electronic signature now. I requested the driver's phone number for tracking purposes. Again, it could be through MacroPoint, through our internal mobile app. But once they've entered all the information that you require, they're going to click accept load, and then they can click on download rate confirmation. If they forget, they get a follow-up email with that rate confirmation attached, and you could also open it up inside the system, review all the information, and email to them if they, for some reason, never got it. Now, a couple things with these documents. We do create custom templates for you. So if you come in and you need a BOL, RateCon, whatever else, with your own information, your own color, legal terms, logos, we can make that happen. We use Jasper iReport on our side, which gives a powerful kind of push to really what you can do with different XML sources to create the document templates that you want. Now, at this point, tracking, we can get the tracking from the carriers in multiple different ways. It can be through a physical carrier portal login, which is going to look similar to what we see inside here. And they can go in and say they have arrived or they have picked up the load. It could also be through API and EDI 214s with the carriers. So as they start updating stuff inside their TMS, we're going to receive those updates into the TMS itself. Or you can utilize the mobile app, as I mentioned, or and also a mini. 1 second, Teams has a little pop-up inside here. A mini portal that requires no login. That looks like this. Once they click on update load status, takes it into the screen. They can click on the pickup, mark it as arrived or completed, upload any documents, and even chat with you if necessary. And for visibility on tracking within the system, if I go back in, you'll notice we have a couple of tools available. So if I open this, it shows up as a timeline telling you who the driver is for the carrier, the truck number, first stop, last stop, duration, miles per day, tracking pings. You could either say don't show stops, show stops, move this around so you can view the information exactly that you want to. But then you have all of the actual status messages that we have received from either the driver or the carrier. And once again, with notifications, geofences, different rules, ELDs, whatever it may be, we can ingest that data and create rule sets to notify you, automate things to make it a lot easier for your internal operations. Now, I do want to cover the drivers so we can see the mobile app and how that operates. So I will go inside and create another shipment. Select the second. And then we'll do the third. Beautiful, submit. I can add the driver rate, similar to how we created the carrier or the broker rate. Beforehand, I can show map and see exactly where my fleet is located for my internal fleet. Select who the driver is. There we go. And you'll notice, similar to the carriers, there's a full rating engine for the drivers, meaning I can set up contracts with the drivers or the vendors and specify how do I pay them? Is it per mile, percentages, flat rates, per hours, along with additional costs like fuel surcharge, deadhead, all of that will be taken into account for. And once I submit the driver and click on dispatch, they will physically receive a push notification into their phone. And this is what the mobile app looks like. We're going to do a whole separate webinar specifically for drivers and the mobile apps, but I always like doing a nice little introduction so that way you can see a little intro to what or how it works. So the driver mobile app, again, it's natively built. You don't have to go out and get third-party systems, nothing like that. The drivers download it. They're going to have a username and password that you provide. And once they log in, depending on the settings you set up, they will see all the information and tasks that they have to perform. So the first option at the bottom that you can unlock, obviously, is the My Trips. So this is a list of all their trips, current, historical, and future. So you'll notice this is the trip that we just created and dispatched to the driver. If I go to current trip, this is the trip that I need to do work on right now based on the time or based on the status. If I go to payrolls, drivers will even be able to view their payrolls directly inside the mobile app. And actually, let me select another one. Was that the first same one? There we go. And they will see a full breakdown on their income and deductions. If you generate an actual settlement document, you'll see it in the show documents, and you can even force them to either accept or decline with a reason in order to fully process that payroll. So kind of tightens up that whole side of the payroll and communications with the drivers, but also from a legal point of view as well. Hours, if you have hourly drivers, they'll be able to go in here and input their hours. We also have the ability to pull that directly from ELDs and then connect with payroll systems like Paylocity, for instance, in order to push out that data. Inside the driver's profile, we can share location. They can change the truck that they're assigned to if you allow them. They can turn on and off the fuel card if they're with EFS directly from the mobile app. Digital books, one of my favorite features inside here is that as you upload documents about the drivers, trucks, and trailers, which I would definitely recommend the next webinars when we schedule the fleet management portion of Amous TMS. As you upload those documents, you can select which ones the driver will be able to view inside the mobile app. So if I click on insurance, I have all my information about the insurance. I could even generate a QR code for the DOT inspection officer, for instance, to scan it and have that document in his or her possession. Excuse me. A few more things is expenses. Drivers can upload their expenses inside here, and thus the payroll department will be able to either accept or decline it. They'll be able to see a full history of their safety violations. And also at the bottom, we have the ability to switch between English and Spanish or any other languages that you allow the drivers to utilize with the mobile app. So again, this is just an introduction, to all the features. But if you start going into the loads, you can accept them, you can go into the pickups, and you can even create rules that in order to complete a pickup, they have to do an inspection through the mobile app, or they have to upload this document. And similar stuff is applied to the carrier mobile app if you're going to be dispatching out to or tendering to outside carriers. But stay tuned for the actual webinar when we do a full deep dive on the mobile apps within Amous TMS. Now, a couple more things that I want to mention when it comes to the actual financials of the system is that as these loads are being closed out, I'm going to focus on the carrier invoices. So with carrier invoices, we can reconcile them and also create different rules in order to flag the invoices as an audit. So this can range from that there is a variance of either a dollar amount or a percentage of what was actually agreed to by the carrier. It can be that a duplicate was sent to us through 210 from the carrier, and it's going to flag it as an audit. But either way, there's many ways that we can go in and be able to notify you that you need to double check this invoice. But if I expand this specific carrier invoice, you can see it's created by Dual Shore Transport for this load. We have all the information pertaining to that invoice. And you will see what the invoiced amount was and what the difference is, and whether or not you approve any changes to the actual rates. If you reject them, that can force it into a different process with your internal accounting managers within and the payables managers within your company, but it allows you to at least go in and be able to manage all of that. At the same time, directly from the carrier invoice list, we can open up and view all the full breakdowns of the charges within the invoice. What was the original rate? Have a side-by-side visibility. Invoice audit, meaning that anytime that a user went in, created, updated, or deleted information about this invoice, who did what, where, when, and why. All the documents pertaining to this specific shipment, or any notes that I want to keep track of as an accounting person utilizing the system and reviewing and auditing these carrier invoices. So this small little feature, though only a couple of clicks, is very powerful because it gives you that full visibility and control over that shipment's financials and to make sure that everything is taken care of correctly with the carrier that actually did the transportation. All right. So we've covered everything from the shipper model as far as how we can manage everything from an enterprise, order entry with rating engines, including integrations that we can do with API and EDI with ERP systems or SFTP integrations, quoting, dispatching, tracking capabilities, invoice and carrier invoice audit rules, and a little bit of the mobile apps. So for all of those that did join today, I really appreciate you giving us the time and checking out Amous TMS. Like I mentioned before, we will be doing follow-up webinars where we will do a deeper dive into different other features that we provide, from trailer pool management, fleet management, different billing, and invoice handling, because there's a lot and it's an enterprise system. So for that reason, if you do want to learn more about Amous TMS, I highly recommend you go into amousinternational.com and requesting the demo. But in the meantime, please review this video again, share it internally if you need to, and we certainly hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much for your time and have a nice day.